some of these media groups, like they don't even pay attention to their own exit polls because they're sitting there scratching their head saying, but how can Donald Trump be doing this? Well, take a look at this one. I think it says it all. There were two questions there. One was, which candidate quality mattered the most? And they were asked, is it the temperament? Or is it because he fights for people like you, fights for people like me? Overwhelmingly, 82% of them said, you know what? I like Trump because he fights for people like me. 66% said Haley has the right temperament. But what good is temperament if nobody's willing to fight for you? Well, I don't need the New York Times to explain this to me. I just think it's kind of funny that they're eventually having to come around to admit what we've all been saying. I don't think you need the New York Times to explain it either. I think we get this. We know this. It was written by a guy who does not like Trump, but his point was he's winning because Trump goes out there and tells people that he's going to try and help them. Here, I'll just read it to you. The Case for Trump by Someone Who Wants Him to Lose. So in the New York Times, the author writes, only now, as the consequences of Biden's lackadaisical approach to mass migration have become depressingly obvious on the sidewalks and in the shelters and in the public schools of liberal cities like New York and Chicago, are Trump's opponents on this issue beginning to see the point. Public services paid by taxes exist for people who live here, not just anyone who makes his way into the country by violating its laws. A job market is structured by rules and regulations and not just an endless supply of desperate laborers prepared to work longer for less. A national culture is sustained, he writes, by common memories, ideals, laws, and a language, which newcomers should honor, adopt, and learn as a requirement of entry. It isn't just a giant arrival gate for anyone and everyone who wants to take advantage of American abundance and generosity. Again, this is written by Bret Stephens, who is not a fan of Trump in any way, shape, or form. But as he says, barring a political miracle or an act of God, it is overwhelmingly likely that Donald Trump will again be the Republican nominee for president. So you got to understand why it is that he works. Think about what happened the other day. The optics, for example, of all of those kids filing out of that school in New York City, in Brooklyn, so that they could make way for the migrants that needed housing. And there was that mother screaming, and she was so angry and she's so upset, right? That is America right now. The optics of that were so horrible, to the point where I was even like, okay, is this for real? Like, as soon as it crossed that evening, are you serious? Because who in their right mind would, knowing how the media is, why would they ever really put that out there? Because you want to drill it home about how much Biden doesn't care about you and how much he cares about migrants. That picture said it all. And even if it was just for one night, the whole idea of the American students filing out and all the migrants filing in, that is very much what Americans are worried about right now.